Hey guys, and welcome to Classical Mythology. So, I always like starting with this unit because when people come into a mythology class, 9 times out of 10, this is the set of stories that they are most familiar with. When I first started teaching this, about I guess, man, 10 or 11 years ago, if you're watching this in 2020, um, I would ask a question every time I started, like, how many of you guys are taking this class because you read Percy Jackson? And almost unanimously, like everybody would raise their hands. Now, of course, that's changed a little bit, and not as many people raise their hand when I ask that question. But there's still this kind of like commonality when it comes to Greek and Roman mythology that most of us have been exposed to it in some way or another. And so a lot of times it's just sort of synonymous with the study of mythology. So I like starting with that. And so I found that there are people who, because you know these stories so well, want me to get through this unit a little bit faster. But I am going to spend probably more time on this particular unit than any of the other units in this class, simply because this is like the mainstream mythology. And we're going to get into that in a second. So, though I will not cover everything, and I have condensed this over the years, I can't push it too fast because I don't want to leave you without being exposed properly to what has really been the most universally influential of all the mythology. So when we talk about classical mythology, Greek and Roman, same thing. And what we really understand is like that entire concept of mythology really comes from the Greeks. Okay, the Greek philosopher Plato, he actually coined the term mythology, and he used that to describe stories that he did not believe to be true. Okay, but he knew were once considered to be true. He considered them fable, but he knew that they were once considered to be truth, which lines up perfectly with what we have defined as mythology so far in this class. Not necessarily something that we believe now, but we know that it once was believed to be true. So we owe the entire concept of mythology to the Greeks in the first place. Okay. The other thing I want to address here is the reason we call it classical mythology is twofold. And I want to make sure you write this down. One, the reason that it's called classical is because traditionally it was the only one that was taught. Okay. If you were to take a mythology class, the only mythology you would cover would have been Greek and Roman mythology. Okay, so for years and years and years, it was the only mythology that was taught. The other reason that it is considered to be the classical mythology, it is the most universally influential. I think the major reason for that is the expanse of Western civilization. I don't know if you're familiar with that idea or not, but Western civilization has nothing really to do too much with geography. It has everything to do with political frameworks and ideologies that spread across the world, and that all really originated in ancient Greece. Okay. And so the Roman Empire came, they took over Greece, and then they continued to spread those same kind of ideals and those same kind of frameworks and everything. And so today, the largest Western country in the world is the United States of America. Okay. And so we have been directly influenced by the culture behind this mythology, even if we're not familiar with the stories themselves. So it's definitely a very influential set of stories. It's definitely one that has traditionally been taught for years and years and years. So that's why we call it classical mythology. As far as the Greek and Roman distinction, I'll say this and then this will be the end of this video. A lot of people get really upset because with Percy Jackson, you've seen a more distinct distinction made between the Greeks and the Romans. But I want to make sure that we understand this. The Greeks were the master myth makers. Okay, they were known as the storytellers. They were the thinkers. When the Romans came in, they are the ones that took over stuff. Okay, and so when they took over Greece, they took over a ton of things from the Greeks. One of which would be their mythology. Okay, the religion also was adapted as well, but their mythology was something that they just sort of attributed then to their gods. So they renamed the gods. They continue telling the same stories. Yes, a lot of the Roman stories are a little bit more warlike, but in general, they're the same story. So in this class, primarily I'll be telling the Greek versions of the stories, and where there's a significant Roman difference, I will explain that when it's appropriate. But most of the time, I'm going to be heading in the Greek direction. Just so I kind of keep that in mind. So that's a good little breakdown of the gist of classical mythology. So we'll stop there for today, and or for right now, rather. You probably, if you're watching this in sequence, you're gonna see more of these, and then next time we'll pick up kind of getting into some more of the meat of what makes this mythology tick. So as always, guys, have a great day, make wise decisions, and I will see you soon. Merry Christmas.